Welcome to Go All In Show on ABC 15, brought to you by Go All In Media. I am your host, Stant. Go All In Show provide the best life transformational stories that will help inspire and improve your personal growth from mind, body, soul, entrepreneurship, and work productivities. Are you ready to go all in to achieve your dream today? Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome to Go All In Show here on ABC 15. My name is Stant. I'm the host, and today I'm sitting here with my superstar guest, Tanner Chidester. And Tanner is the founder and the CEO of EliteCEO.com and have been super successful in a short period of time. So that's why I want to invite Tanner for our interview today. Tanner, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you today.
My first question is, have you ever thought, before you become so successful, have you ever thought that you got to tell the same story over and over when people interview you?
Yeah. So just kind of like from the beginning a little bit. Yeah, I grew from a family of 7 kids. My mom was stay-at-home, my dad was a teacher.
Sure.
And so kind of growing up, they're very religious, very kind of conservative. And then growing up, we always had enough, but there was never kind of more than that. And so I think from a young age, they really instilled hard work. They would actually use us to clean high schools, or they called them seminaries, to make extra money. My dad would have me mow lawns and stuff like that. So around about the age of 12, I was getting made fun of a lot. I had 2 older sisters, so we would do a lot of tea parties and stuff like that. And
are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest boy.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have 2 older sisters, and I have 2 younger sisters, 2 younger brothers. So they were doing tea parties with me, and I got made fun of a lot. And I think, I was kind of weird. Sure. And so I remember coming home, and I just had this idea I was going to beat these kids up, and I was like, I'm going to start working out. And I was 12, so I would start going to the gym before school at 5 a.m.
Wow.
As a 12-year-old. And then, about 3 months later, I started, gaining some muscle. My body adapted very quickly, and the kids stopped messing with me, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I started really excelling at sports, and then I got very serious into sports, and probably, good 10 years of my life, 12 to about 22, that was the way I attack business now was what I did there.
Right.
And I went as far as I could go. I played a little Division I football, had a lot of injuries, and I just also think I wasn't good enough. And when that ended, I came back to Texas where my parents were at, and I was pretty depressed. I was pretty, I guess, feeling down about everything. And I met a mentor, and he convinced me to drop out of school. I had a year left.
Okay, how do you meet this mentor?
So he knew my dad. And the irony was, he really was trying to help me because I wouldn't say I'd gone off the road, but my parents were very religious, and they were kind of trying to get me come back to church and stuff like that. And so they introed me to him, and he was like, do you know how to build a business? I was like, no. And he's like, well, let me show you. And he happened to be, he's married Russell Brunson's cousin. So he's connected to Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels. Yeah. And so he convinced me to drop out of school, and I went and worked at his home garage for about a year and a half. And he taught me how to build a whole product. Now, during that time, I learned a lot. I just didn't make any money, so it was really frustrating. But he taught me how to do funnels and emails and products. Yeah, and I built out it's called the Rapid Muscle System, and I sold it for $47. And now I was about 23. So from 23 to 25, I'd only made about $2,000. And during that, selling that product, because I didn't have any money, and I wasn't really sure how to market it. And he taught me everything he knew. But I guess that was kind of the stopping point is. He had never heard about high ticket. I didn't know what high ticket was. So I turned 24, and I was kind of I'm getting kind of old. I need to go live on my own and not be at my parents' house and working here for free. And I moved up to Utah, and then I did door-to-door sales, and I was a server at Olive Garden. And then in my off time, I would try to make the business work. And I called him probably 5 times over the course of a year and a half, just hey, I'm gonna quit, man. It's not working. This sucks. And I was working, 12, 16-hour days just trying to get it to work. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And he just told me to stick with it. I remember, and if he hadn't, I would have quit, which is crazy now because my life would be completely different. But all these things were kind of preparing me. And so finally, right at the end of summer sales, I'm doing door-to-door sales, selling security alarms for a company called Alder. It's actually in Utah. Okay. And I see an ad, and it's how to build an online fitness business. I had never seen an ad. I don't even think I'd seen an ad before. I was barely on social media. I click on it, and I book a call, and I pay, $5,000. Which at the time, yeah.
Where did you get those $5,000?
So I had $2,000 in my bank account, and then I got a credit card.
Really?
It was very scary for me. I remember I was actually sweating. I was like on the phone. I was like,
I can relate that.
Yeah, and I was, yeah. And I was like pouring my heart out to this guy, and this guy probably was like, bro, shut up. Just like give me the credit card. Really? And so I pay, and I got in, and pretty much I was like, so what do you guys do different? And they're like, well, just sell your program that you sell now for $1,500. I was like, dude, no one's gonna buy that. They're like, just do it. I was like, okay. So I'd done years of sales. I'd learned tech and automations. And in the first week I made $10,000. I was like, holy. And then I was mad actually at first because it kind of felt like I suffered for nothing, because I was sitting there going, all I had to do was charge more because I was charging so little. But with that being said, I'd learned all these invaluable skills, and I think that's part of why I'm good at sales and other things, because I learned that skill. I didn't know it was going to lead me to that point, but I learned it. And then, a year later, I'd done $1 million, and then the next year was 10, and then it just has gone up from there. So that's kind of like the long story, not so short, but that's the story, yeah.
I read from your book too. Infinite Income. I love it. I read it all. And I listened to the audiobook, guess what, within one day.
Oh, yeah, really?
Listening all day long. So you're talking about quitting, right? A lot of entrepreneurs that make the mistake because they quit before they get there. Can you share with us a little bit more?
Yeah, for me, I think the hard thing is when you're putting a lot of time and effort into something and you're not seeing any reward. So you're sacrificing time, you're sacrificing friends, you're sacrificing family. I wasn't even dating hardly.
Sure.
And then you're not making any extra money. So after a while, you're like, well, shoot, I'm working. Yeah. Right, I'm working an extra 6 hours a day. I could just work 8, make the same amount of money and be less stressed out. And so I think it just compounds over time. And that's why like getting quick wins is so important for clients, because for me, the only reason I kept going is I think I'm abnormal. I think most people would have quit, and I almost did quit. And so I've said that a few times, where that's why, especially with clients, you want to get them those quick wins, because if they don't get them, they start to doubt, they start to go, is this really going to work? And so, I'm grateful now, but at the time it was pretty hard. It was very miserable for me.
Right, because there's one part that you said, success loves speed.
Yeah.
Do you know, I interviewed Dr. Joe Vitale from the movie The Secret.
Oh, awesome.
And his book, one of his books, he wrote probably 70 books already. Wow. His book is Money Loves Speed.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with you that if you don't see the results soon enough,
yeah, you quit. It gets very frustrating, and again, most people are also going to discourage you. So you're like, right. Why are you spending all that time? Like, why are you doing this? And so it kind of reinforces the thought of quitting, because there's very few people I feel like that are encouraging you to keep moving forward. Even my family at the time was very discouraging. I don't think they were over the top, but they thought I was crazy. And I started thinking I was crazy. So I was glad I had my mentor, but he was the only one who thought I could do it, but he'd done it before. And so I think that was helpful. Without him, I don't think I would have got here, because no one in my family had ever been in business. I wasn't used to business. I didn't know anyone who had a business. It was just very abnormal for my family. So.
Well, because your dad worked for the school for many years, right? Until he retired?
No, so he still even does it. He does do some life insurance on the side as well, I think, because as we got older, he's like, this isn't cutting it. But he loves it, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just, I think the one thing I will give my parents credit for is they really taught me how to work hard, because we never went without, but they never gave us more than we needed. And they were like, hey, if you guys want to go to college, you got to get scholarships, or you got to do this, or you got to pay for your car. And I really resented them at the time. Sure. I grew up in kind of a more well-off suburb, but I think the difference is, there were 7 of us and there were 2 of them. And so it kind of evened out.
I think they teach the right thing though.
Yeah, so I'm super grateful now, because a lot of my friends who are more well-off, I would say they're not as well-off now, because they didn't have their backs against the wall. And I think there's something to be said when there's no way out. It helps you push farther than you can otherwise. Because if your parents will bail you out, or there's an option B, I think it's hard for people to push through, because why would they? You know.
So Tanner, help us here with our audience who just try to hustle, maybe working full time for someone else, but know deep down inside they have something to share to the world. I work with a lot of passionate entrepreneurs who want to write a book, but this is like harder, right, with the online and everything since COVID too. So what is the 3 things that the quality of the successful entrepreneur that they need to have?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I mean, the first one is going to sound cliche, but it's obviously to work hard. And again, I got this from my dad, but I really learned from him at an age, like 8 hours was like, I can't remember the last time I worked 8 hours, even now. And it's not because, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying you have to work more, but to get ahead, a lot of times, like, especially even like in my business now or even then, like if you have a job, you have to work extra on the business. And so you're working just 8 hours just to pay your bills, and then everything after that is extra. So I think one thing is like working hard. I think another one is just the word perseverance. When things are not going your way and you're losing money or you're not making money, and you're giving up friends and time and family, it's not a good feeling. And I remember I would be very discouraged. In fact, there were times where, I wouldn't even want to go on a date or something because I was like, oh, it's like 2 hours, like I could be working. But that's really what got me through. And I genuinely believe now, at the time I didn't, but I genuinely believe now, as long as you really don't have like a mental disability, like a real mental disability, if you keep going, you will figure it out. And I think everyone's skill sets are different or on different levels. But it just doesn't, if you make a mistake and you change course and you keep going and keep going, if there's 10 doors in front of you, you may have to knock 9. Some may only have to knock 2, but either way, you will get there. And then maybe you said 3 things. I mean, another one would just be like grit. Like it's not very comfortable. It's not fun. It gets worse before it gets better. And so, even myself, we see people at the top like Gary Vee. A few years back, I wouldn't understand how he makes money now, or like how he's able to kind of do what he does. And I would just think like, so wait, this guy just like posts a bunch of stuff and makes money. Like it doesn't make sense. But now I know he has a business kind of underneath his brand, and a lot of what he does on the surface, it's just he enjoys it and it's just to give back. That's not actually his business model.
I start to see that a lot, with like Gary Vee, right? I mean, he doesn't actually teach what he's selling, but he's like motivating people, and that's like showing
it's his whole brand. And like even one of my good friends, Alex Hermosi, I've kind of seen him transition now, because he had Gym Launch, and now all his content is just to help, and it really has nothing to do with his business, but it builds a lot of goodwill. And like I think that's the direction I'm going to start going as well, because like you see, once you get to a certain level and you're making a certain amount, like did you see when Gary Vee did that NFT launch? So he did an NFT launch, and because he never sells anything, I think that's the difference. So like right now, I would consider direct response. So a lot of my stuff is like, hey, click on my stuff, buy my things, DM me. It's very direct response. And so the way one of my good friends put it is, it's like you're kind of taking goodwill. So it's like you give them content that's like goodwill in the jar, but then you're asking them to buy stuff. So you're constantly taking and putting it in. Gary Vee, for example, like he's not asking you to ever buy anything. So it's just he's giving so much goodwill. So finally, when he did that NFT launch, I think he did like $100 million.
No way.
Right?
Wow.
Because he's like, hey guys, buy my stuff, and he never does it. And so what I'm seeing with these guys who build big brands is eventually, once they kind of have their business and they're able to step out, or at least not be the face, then they're able to just give all this content and goodwill, and then when they finally make an ask, everyone does it. And so, I brought up Alex. He probably gets, I don't know, he doesn't get annoyed. We're good friends, but I bring him up a lot. But he's a good example for me, because his book, $100 Million Offers, he did the same thing. He put it out there. It was super cheap.
And he did not sell anything.
He didn't sell anything. No, and he's not making hardly any money from it. I mean, he's selling it for like $1 or just to cover the cost. But it built a lot of goodwill. He gave everything he knew. And so now, if he were to ask for something today, people would buy it, no problem. Exactly. So I think that's been interesting for me to see as well, from like going from direct response, and you need to do it first. I think some people, they they see Gary Vee and it's like, that's not where he started. You start in direct response possibly, or get that initial income, and then once you grow, you transition into what they kind of see now.
Or maybe do both in the same time, you know? I don't know.
Well, and I think it's hard if you're the face, because like, for example, let's say one of my brothers took over as CEO.
Sure.
Now they're doing kind of the marketing and they're the face, and then all my content on social media would just be like advice and tips and helpful stuff. And so, I mean, at least with Gary Vee, he still has those businesses, but you never see him directly like market. And I think that's where you become a brand, and that's where you build this goodwill that, comes back tenfold later down the road. But it's a long-term play. If you don't have money, you can't do a brand play because
you cannot just like
you'll run out of funds.
Record a video, hire a videographer,
exactly. But that's what most people think when they start. That's what they think.
Yeah,
so.
And then you get depressed in the back end. Nobody know, but outside you have a beautiful face. Right?
Yeah.
You got to be smart on why you do what you do.
Of course, yeah.
And I feel like to become, right? Like,
oh yeah.
What have you seen the change in you in the last 3-4 years?
Yeah. So when I first started, full transparency, all I cared about was making money. I mean,
right?
because you're just in such a desperate place where you'll just do anything to get out of it. And so,
Where you say you were selfish?
Yeah. I would. I mean, I gave up a lot. I mean, I put my success before anything. And I still struggle with that today. I mean, I still would say if someone looked at me, I have a very inordinary work-life balance, but that's just what I love to do. But I think what's shifted now is, it's funny we keep bringing up Gary Vee and stuff, but like all these things go through my head. But yeah, he's good. But he even says it is like it becomes less about the money and more about the game, because once you hit a certain level, there's nothing you're gonna get from it that you can't already get. And so when you're not there, it seems like everything, but then once you have a lot of money, it just is like, okay, and you'll lose your motivation. And so I think one thing that's really helped me is I didn't realize how much I enjoyed business until I didn't need the money. I was just so motivated to like, I gotta hit $1 million a month. I gotta prove I can do it. And it was such like, it was that, but then once I got there, it didn't feel like I thought it would. And so now it really is more about the growth. Like it's more about how much impact can I have? How can I kind of help my team? And I'm not perfect still, but it's definitely shifted from how much money did I make this month? Because it doesn't matter. And like when you're making a lot, it's like if you do $1 million or $1.2 million or you do $5 million, it doesn't change your life at all. Like your life's already kind of been changed. If that makes sense.
Yes. And with your company, because now you are not the one-man show who's working from your garage.
Yeah,
right?
not anymore.
You have the whole team working with you.
Yeah.
How do you build your company culture?
It's a good question. So, I mean, when I first started, I think it was very fear-based, to be quite honest, because I think part of it was stress for me and just lack of time. And so I was just like, okay, this is what you have to do. Either do it or like you're gone. And it's funny though, some of the best business owners and entrepreneurs, like Jeff Bezos has a pretty bad rap when you read books. Like they say he was very like hard.
Right.
Elon even gets that sometimes, to be honest. So I think it's better that than the opposite, where you're too soft. Okay. But I think as you grow, you really have to just think, it has to be about them, and you have to think, how can I get them what they want so they'll get what you want? And someone said something to me that I thought was so true, is like, you can always count on people to do what's best for them. And so instead of like trying to, rig the system, it's like, okay, what's in their best interest? Align that with yours. And so that goes more into, why people do profit shares, or, they give them a piece of the equity or things of that nature. But I think for my company culture, like the big 3 things I look for is, one is work ethic, or like competitive greatness, right? Like they just want to be great. And that's something that I never understood. I was like, why? Like I always have done my best. I've never understood why some people don't, but not everyone does. Right. The other one's obviously just like integrity. So I always give my team an example. If I overpay them, will they tell me? And sometimes that's a way to test your team. You can actually do things where you overpay them, or you do certain things and see what they do, and see if they say anything, see if they don't. And I'm not, if they don't say.
Have right. Someone says something, hey Tanner, and someone
Yeah,
like,
which I think is important because it lets me know like they're always going to try to do the right thing. And then, you know, the third thing is just communication, or like there's a book on it called Radical Candor. And I've always been very upfront with people. I've gotten better with sales on how to kind of pull it back so it's not so direct, but a lot of people are not good communicators, and they don't really say what they need to say. And so I've gotten very good at just kind of pulling back those layers and being able to talk to people. But those would be the big three, probably big three things we focus on, what I want in my culture.
That's
So
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And everything,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
so what did you do when you were alone and you have that dark night of the soul? How do you overcome it?
I mean, to be honest with you, most of those nights it was just very depressing. I don't even think, well, I would do two things. First, I would like usually eat away my sorrows, right? Like I'd have like ice cream or something, like, but in reality, like it was, the only thing that really kept me going, in all honesty, was I was, from a young age, I don't know if it was my parents or it was just kids bullying me. I don't really know what triggered it, but there was kind of that moment in time where when I started working out, it was about 3 months later, and then I just remembered these girls that made fun of me, and these guys, they were like, dude, like you're looking jacked. And that just was such a positive reinforcement for me, because I was going to the gym and my muscles hurt so much. I don't know if anyone is watching this, but when you start working out, your muscles hurt way worse when you start than like when your body gets conditioned, because it's not used to it. And I just remember as a kid, I was like, how does anyone do this? This is so painful. And I stuck with it, and I got that positive reinforcement. And so I just really had an adverse thing to, like, I guess, being a loser. Like, I became captain of the football team. I was always good at what I did. I had straight A's. I was good with, like, girls. And I just remember when I dropped out of school, every time I almost quit, it's like I couldn't do it, because then I'd have to admit I failed, and I didn't want people to think I was a loser. And so when I was, like, close to quitting, I would just basically tell myself, like, I have to keep going. Like, it wasn't even an option. And so the human mind is like very powerful, and you can do almost anything. And like David Goggins' book, I relate to that book so much, because
What is the name of this
it's
book?
called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Okay.
Have you read it?
No.
Well, he's psycho, but I mean, he makes psycho people look not psycho. But he would just talk about how he'd run these 100-mile races and his feet were blistering, and he would just talk about how, like, you can do anything. And I relate to those books so much. Like, I even have goosebumps talking about it, because like it just, that's what I believe in. That's like what I admire. And I just truly believe you can do whatever you want to do, as long as you're willing to sacrifice enough, you know. And so yeah. So
before we end,
Sure.
what's your life legacy look like? Because you still have a long way to go.
yeah,
What's
you
it
know,
look like?
that's such a great question. I was actually depressed for probably over a year, where like once I had made a lot of money,
Sure.
and I wasn't really working that hard, and it was just coming in,
Okay.
I just remember feeling like, okay, well, what's the point? Because I had all these things. I bought like a $550,000 car. I was living in a $7 million penthouse, and I'm just sitting there. I remember one day I was sitting there and I was like completely miserable. And I was like, you know, like, why am I so miserable? And, you know, it's gonna depend on how you view religion and stuff like that, but I really was trying to search for the meaning of life. And, you know, depending if, you know, you're religious or you're not, you can have different ideas. And I never tell anyone what they should think, but one of my friends really helped me. And he basically said, you know, like, Tanner, like, why does life have to matter? Like, why does it have to have a meaning? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, it has to matter. And he's like, nah, dude. He's like, why does it matter if it does or not? It's like, why don't you just do what you like to do? And I think in that moment for me, like, it helped me realize, like, I liked work. And I think people were trying to make me feel guilty about that, or like, you know, people say all the time, you shouldn't work all the time, but I like it. Like, it makes me, I feel good, because it makes me feel like I'm moving forward and I'm progressing, and it's the person you become, right?
Right.
So in terms of like legacy, to answer your question, I don't, you know, he also said something. He's like, you know, in 1,000 years, no one's going to remember you anyways. And he's like, you know, in 10,000 years, no one's going to remember you. And like that had, you know, everyone has their own opinion, but that for me has really helped because it makes me think less about what other people will think of me and just really trying to put my best foot forward to do what I enjoy. Yeah. And then ironically, typically by doing that, I help other people anyways. And so I don't know if there's like a legacy I'm shooting for anymore. I think for me, I just want to be the best I can be. So when I look back, when I'm about to die, I just don't have regrets. And that is very important to me. Right. And when I played football, my goal was playing the NFL. And when I fell short, I remember that being one of the saddest but most satisfying feelings of my life. And the reason it felt satisfying is I know that I did everything I could do. Like I worked out more than anyone on the team. I trained harder, I lifted longer, I studied more film. And so I just wasn't good enough and I could live with that because, you know, I was playing with guys who were 6'8" and 280, you know, but I could live with that. And I think a lot of people, they don't ever try. And so when they get older, they have so much regret because they never even tried. And so I guess that would be my legacy is like, I just want to look back and know that I did the best I can do. Right. And the irony is when you actually do your best, you'll accomplish a lot because most people never even do their best. So
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, sorry, long answer.
No problem. It doesn't have to be like one specific, oh, I want to build a school or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I love that you're very human. You share, you know, things that are important to you. And I hope that it will impact all of you as you're watching this too.
100%.
And how can our audience reach out to you, Tanner?
Oh, well, you know, you just go on social media and type in my name. There's not a lot of people with the last name. And, you know, if they want to connect, like, you know, feel free to reach out. And I try to talk to as many people as I can, move my fingers as fast as they'll go. So.
And check out this book, Infinite Income, the 8-figure formula for your online business. If you're looking to create your, you know, the work that you meant to do, you know it from inside your heart, right? So don't wait. So just read this book first, listen to the audiobook, reach out to Tanner. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching Go All In show here on ABC 15. Check out our Rockstar Academy bestseller intensive program at nimstan.com/the Rockstar Academy. You have the message to share, and the world needs your knowledge now more than ever. We are here to help you gain more credibility, wow your audience, and amplify your result within just 90 days. Join us at the Rockstar Academy today at nimstan.com/the Rockstar Academy. Stop calling it a dream. It's time to call this a plan. It's your turn to share your story to the world and become the #1 best-selling author. I will see you here at Go All In show next time.